JBN, we keep you informed. I am Michelle Jones, and in the news, 21 guns seized at Kingston Wharf was destined for Mucko, Clarendon. The woman was listed as a person of interest in connection with Friday's major gun and ammunition find at a warehouse on Industrial Terrace in Kingston, has reportedly made contact with the police. According to a source, arrangements have been made for the woman to meet with investigators. However, no date or time has been disclosed. 21 guns were seized during Friday's operation. The guns were found in a box, which was destined for Mucko, Clarendon. More than 2,000 rounds of ammunition and 3 pounds of ganja were also found. Meanwhile, 7 people were taken into custody on Friday in connection with the seizure of a gun in the Kingston Central Police Division. The police here raid was conducted on Prince of Wales Street. A Glock 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 17 rounds of ammunition and a single-shot gun cartridge were seized. Man killed in St. James police confrontation. A 22-year-old man was fatally shot during a confrontation with members of the Joint Anti-Gang Task Force at the Shoes Arcade, Harbour Street in Montego Bay, St. James on Saturday. The deceased has been identified as Dwayne Orton of Catherine Drive in the community. Details are sketchy, but the incident happened about 5:30 p.m. The police say Smith & Wesson 9mm pistol containing a magazine with 14 rounds of ammunition was also seized during the incident. The matter has been reported to the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, and the Inspectorate of Professional Standards Oversight Bureau. 29-year-old man shot dead in Manchester. Police are investigating the murder of a 29-year-old man in Silent Hill near Christiana on Saturday. Police named the deceased as Burn Thompson, a resident of Silent Hill. A report from the police's Constabulary Communications Unit said that about 9 a.m., Thompson was standing along a roadway in his community when he was attacked by men armed with handguns. The gunmen opened fire hitting Thompson. The police were alerted, and Thompson was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Jerkfish vendor Squatty shot dead at home in Trelawney. The Trelawney police are probing the murder for jerkfish vendor who was shot and killed at his gate in the parish on Friday morning. The deceased has been identified as 36-year-old Dwayne Anderson, otherwise called Squatty, who was of Hague Settlement. Reports are that about 3:30 a.m., residents heard several explosions in the community. At about 6 a.m., residents stumbled upon Anderson's body and summoned the Falmouth police. Upon their arrival, the police found Anderson lying on the ground at his gate clutching a knife. The scene was processed and the body was removed to the morgue. No motive has so far been established for the killing. Jamaican arraigned on first-degree murder charges for alleged killing of New York Burger King employee. A Jamaican has been arraigned on charges of first-degree murder and robbery for allegedly killing a Puerto Rican-born employee at a Burger King restaurant in East Harlem in January. A New York Supreme Court judge in Manhattan on Thursday ordered 30-year-old Winston Glenn, held without bail in the January 9, 2022 fatal shooting of 19-year-old Crystal Bayron Neves. New York Police Department Chief of Detectives James Essig said that Glenn, a former employee at the restaurant before Bayron Neves' employment, had 4 prior arrests. He said Glenn wore a mask and demanded more money from Bayron Neves during the armed robbery. The man demands more money from the register drawer. As Ms. Bayron Neves is scrambling to open the drawer, she doesn't have the key, he told reporters. The male fires 1 shot, striking her and causing her death. When you see the video and think of this terrible incident, a senseless, brutal killing of a teenager who was doing the right thing, working on a Saturday night at 12:30 and had her life cut short, it both makes your blood boil and shocks your senses, Essig added. All indications are that he knew this place well, that he pre-planned the event, he continued. NYPD Chief of Department Kenneth Corey said, "There was no reason to shoot this young woman. Money had been handed over," he said. "She was trying to comply with the gunman's demands. She was killed for no apparent reason." Police said that Glenn, who lives at a homeless shelter at the Days Inn, near John F. Kennedy International Airport in Jamaica, Queens, was found in Brooklyn and arrested. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, a former NYPD captain, said he was struck by the callousness of the murder. "I don't come to press conferences of arrest, but this one was so personal for a cold-blooded killer to shoot a 19-year-old child after she complied," he said. "We have been saying this over and over again. There are too many guns on our streets." Prosecutors said they were adamant in not offering a plea to a lesser charge against Glenn, a move that Glenn's legal aid attorney Eric Williams said he'll challenge. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg said in a statement that Beira Neves had her whole life ahead of her when she was senselessly killed at just 19 years old. While we can never bring her back or fill the hole left in our loved ones' hearts, this indictment brings us one step closer to securing justice for her and for her family, he said. New York City is in the midst of a gun crisis, and tackling gun crime with important prosecutions like these is a top priority for my office. Glenn was remanded into custody until his next court appearance on June 18. He has been behind bars since his January 14 arrest. Paulwell pleads with government to suspend pricing mechanism for fuel to cushion rising oil prices. Opposition spokesman on energy, Philip Paulwell, is urging the government to suspend its pricing mechanism for fuel to help cushion rising fuel prices, which he says will get higher with the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Since Russia invaded Ukraine on February 24, the price per barrel for oil has skyrocketed, reaching as high as US $120 per barrel. Projections are that it could hit the $150 per barrel mark in the short term. According to Paulwell, a former energy minister, the situation is now an emergency. He called for the suspension of the pricing mechanism by the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam during last Thursday's sitting of the Standing Finance Committee. He asked the current energy minister, Darrell Vaz, whether that was something the government would be willing to do in light of weekly increases in the price of fuel and the ripple effect this has on the wider economy. I remember in my time, during the period of one hurricane, we had to suspend the pricing arrangement briefly to accommodate the emergency situation, Paulwell said, as he described Petrojam's pricing formula as a rigid price formula. Would the government be prepared to contemplate that now, as we have seen every week, record price levels in this area, a record that is much higher than the oil crisis of the 1970s, the crisis of the 1980s, and is happening every week, Paulwell remarked. Will the government be prepared to contemplate the easing of that, and especially because I see you're forecasting a profit of $2.4 billion for Petrojam this year, he added. Responding to the questions and the suggestion, Vaz said that obviously would have to be a matter that would have to be discussed and considered, both as Cabinet and the Ministry of Finance consultations. Obviously, in any scenario like that, it may require subsidy, and therefore, based on all that's happening with the COVID-19 pandemic, etc., now this, it wouldn't be something we could just do without deeper consultation and review, but I'll take your suggestion on board. Paulwell asked Vaz whether it was acknowledged that consumers and businesses are really experiencing a period of difficulty now, and that the government is prepared to consider relaxing the pricing mechanism. Vaz acknowledged the difficulties being experienced by both individuals and businesses, but stuck to his position. As I said, that has fiscal implications, and therefore, obviously, if I made such a commitment at this place, I may not be here next year, he said. More COVID-19 self-help kits to be delivered to schools, says Williams. The Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams, has sought to assure that schools are prepared, including being able to conduct limited testing for COVID-19 when full resumption of face-to-face classes takes place on Monday, March 7. Williams was responding to questions from the opposition Member of Parliament for St. Andrews South East, Julian Robinson, as to the state of readiness for schools and whether testing for COVID-19 will be conducted inside the institutions. This was during last Thursday's sitting of the Standing Finance Committee that examined the $912 billion estimates of expenditure for the 2022-23 fiscal year. She said 5,000 COVID-19 self-test kits for COVID-19 have already been issued to schools and more being acquired. In terms of overall readiness, Williams reminded that schools have most recently been open since last November. She said the Ministry of Health and Wellness would have conducted inspections in all schools, with only about 6 not being given the seal of approval for reopening. She also noted that schools have been operating for several months, but without their full cohort of students. All are required to have sanitization stations, proper signage, and isolation areas, she said. When schools reopen on Monday after the midterm break, it will mark just 6 days shy of 2 years since they were shuttered on March 13, 2020. That was 3 days after Jamaica confirmed its first case of COVID-19. Since then, some students, in particular those sitting external examinations, have returned to the classroom but for brief periods. Thousands of others have not had any contact with the school system since. Jamaica reports 30 new COVID cases, 2 deaths. Jamaica on Saturday reported 30 new cases of the COVID-19 and 2 virus-related deaths in the 24-hour period. This brings the total number of cases recorded on the island since the start of the pandemic to 128,719, and the death toll stands at 2,827. Of the newly reported cases, there were 7 females and 6 males, with ages ranging from 7 months to 72 years. The cases were recorded in St. Catherine 4, Kingston and St. Andrew 3, Clarendon 3, Hanover 1, St. James 1, and St. Mary 1. Meanwhile, the latest fatalities are a 91-year-old woman from Westmoreland, whose death was recorded in February 2022, and a 75-year-old woman from St. Catherine, whose death was recorded in March of this year. 4 more deaths were reported under investigation. According to the latest statistics in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the country also recorded 185 new recoveries, bringing the total number of recoveries to 78,664. The country's positivity rate now stands at 3.1%. There are 403 confirmed active cases on the island. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.